Well, I bet that was hard.
Good, and then shift your hips to one side, sit back on your butt cheek. Get that nice ass stretch. And switch to the other side. Good. Reach back, grab your opposite foot, stretch your quad.
Oh.
All right, so drop my crotch. That noise was my balls hitting the mat. Switch to the other side. Into a lengthy explanation of the evolution of the grappling arts based on my limited little perspective, because everybody has their own. But as after World War II in Japan, they created a sport form of jiu-jitsu that's called judo. And that sport form was being spread across the world, because the world after World War II was in the second age of globalization, where information was spreading all over the world. And in Brazil, the culture, instead of adding rules that was done in America and Japan, creating an Olympic sport, in Brazil they were removing rules. And there were always contingent groups of people that fought over what the rules of the sport of jiu-jitsu should be. And there's arguments that refute everything I say that are valid. There's also arguments that affirm everything I say that are valid. And not to be a postmodernist, but the truth really is a moving target out there. And it all depends on the perspective in which you are in. But basically, sometime 50 million years ago, there was an ancestral cat that, depending on the environment in which it lived, became a tiger, became a lion, became a panther. And that cheetah evolved to perfectly hunt in the plains of Africa. And that panther evolved to hunt in the jungle. And if I take the panther and I put him in the plains, he starves. His legs aren't long enough, his sprint isn't good, and he can't hunt, therefore he dies. If I take that cheetah and I put him in the jungle, he can't, he's too awkward to move in between the branches. He is not adapted, and he starves. So I try to teach from the perspective of the 50 million year old ancestral cat. And whichever way you want to evolve it, you want to be a tiger on the mat, be a tiger. You want to be a cheetah on the mat, be a cheater. You want to be a house cat on the mat, fuck all this hard beating each other up shit. Do that too. I love house cats. I like all the styles. But so I want everybody to stand with your feet like super wide apart and realize how out of balance you are. It's hard to stand that way. And to keep your feet this way, in order to stand, you're going to bend down and put your butt out. You're going to take your writing hand and you're going to stick it up front. And you're bent over. Then because you want to see what's happening, you're going to look up. And then you're going to go, oh shit, my face is awfully exposed. And you're going to put your hands in front. And then you'll move around and you are in your natural primate chimpanzee grappling stance. And a lot of the grappling arts, including sport with jiu-jitsu, get very good at this stance because the environment in which you are in favors this stance. And then your coach sticks you in competition, you're nervous, you go win a bunch of fights, your arms raised, you want to do MMA, and they stick you in MMA, you convince yourself, well, if it was a real fight, I would stand up straight, but then panic enters you and you resort to your primal grappling stance and you lose your MMA fight. And MMA is filled with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and college wrestlers who did not adapt. Champions on the IBJJF scene losing their MMA debuts because you will fight how you train. Because most of what we do happens subconsciously and fast. Which is also the reason why this art tends to kick other arts' ass. Because we get to do it in real time against real resistance. Where the other ones pretend and create hypotheticals. Okay, so everybody stand as if you're on a pair of skis. And you're skiing down the mountain. And I'm going to take my left foot and I'm going to slide it up. And my right heel comes off the deck. Now I'm right-handed. And you can change any lead you want. I don't care. This is just me. And I'm feeling how my feet are still parallel. I'm going to relax my upper body, and I'm going to drop down like a sprinter. Where I've got that sprint. And I'm going to feel where my rear leg has that explosion power. That leap at the crane. I need to leap at my crane. Then I'm going to go straighten my knees out and bend over the wrong way. And go, oh, this is how I don't want to do it. This is what I do when I'm lazy. I do this. This is what I do when I'm not lazy. I drop my hips down. This is what I do when I'm lazy. I do this. And sometimes the lazy way is good. It is, right? So then I'm going to bring my hands up. I'm going to relax my arms. Grab my imaginary basketball. Bounce it a couple times. Get right into the top of the key. And right there is my universal combat stance. I could wrestle from here, I could box from here, I could shoot from here, I could broadsword fight from here, I could archery from here. I want one idiot-proof stance. And I want to practice that, rehearse it, and instill that into my subconscious, which is rewiring your instincts. Come out here, Seth. He looks like a beagle. He looks like George Harrison. All right, so in addition, I want to feel like my hips, I imagine I'm like an X-Wing, and on my hip bones are my X-Wing guns. I go choo, choo. And I'm going to keep my opponent in between my hip guns. I don't want to grapple with my hands and leave my hips behind, where I do what most grapplers do, including me, is forget their hips. Instead, I'm going to feel my hips are engaging. My hands are just extensions, ready to put that ball in there, and I'm feeling my hips, always aiming at my target. Now, for a second, your foot did this, where you're on the balance beam. I'm going to keep this foot from doing this, which is a hard thing. And I'm aiming my lead foot to where it's aiming right in between my opponent's legs. So boom, he snaps up, and anytime you can, don't hit me in the nuts, you'll hurt your foot. I'm keeping my hip bones aimed at my opponent. I'm keeping my face out of the fight. It's really hard for us wrestlers to learn. But once you get punched in the face a bunch of times, you'll learn it. Get your face out of the fight, your hips in the fight, and my hands ready to shoot the basketball, right? Everybody just pair up and square off.
Hey, Dougie, let me borrow you.
That my nose never goes over the toes. As soon as I learn the rule, then I get to do it. I get to move my head around. I want to grab that head, and then it becomes a part of the game, right? But if I don't know the rules, I'll do this, and then I'll have to pull my hips out of the fight, and I have no counter. But if I learn the rules and he swings at me, I pull my head out of the fight, but my hips remain in the fight. So you really want to feel what your hips are up to, and that your hands are but extensions of hips. I'm feeling, what do my hips want to do? Do they want to kick? Do they want to shoot? Not, I'm trying to grab this guy, I'm trying to step really fast. I want to relax that and feel what my hips are doing. Avoid this thing that we tend to start doing this. You almost like pretend like I had an old boxing coach 30 years ago that would put a weight on your ankle. So you could almost drag through your foot. The lead foot, you want to be super mobile and fast. Not your back foot, because then you do all this shit. My lead, I want this foot really fast. I want this foot like almost like it's anchored. Make sense? Keep doing it. Lines on my feet, they are parallel. If I do this, they're no longer parallel. They're being off. I want to learn the rule to keep my feet parallel. It's almost like I want to constantly be kicking my heels outward, like I'm doing this. Then I will naturally fall in a good stance. But if I start in this base, I'm going to end up like this, right? I want to keep my feet parallel, keep my hips on line. The other thing, in Greco and Judo, because nobody's punching you in the face, or kneeing you in the nuts, it's natural to have a more neutral stance where I'm leading like a horse stance, which again is fine. I love those two arts. They're awesome. But while I'm here, I cannot protect my stomach, my nuts, my groins. So you have to insist on a lead when they're punching you. Grappling rules only, I can do this. I can be right neutral. He doesn't know whether I'm right or left. But then he can kick me right in the face or the nuts. Boom. But if I insist on a lead, whether it's left or right, I'm protecting this area. Make sense? Okay, go. As moves, they're just drills in which I use to orient myself before I fight, because if I don't, my instincts will take over. And before I know it, I'm going to adapt to the rules and I'm going to be doing this. Because I'm a wrestler. And I was a boxer too, but never mind. We're rewiring our instincts, all right? Now in this drill, I'm going to remind us all that, you ever watched grapplers only who never did ball sports, but played ball sports? They're fucking horrible at it. Because they're so used to doing this without hips, reaching and grabbing. They throw their ball like this. They used to say, you throw like a girl. I can't say that anymore because it's misogynistic and all this shit from my wife, but basically...
But you said it.
No, I didn't say it. What did I do? All right, so I want to feel what my hip does, just like when I throw a ball, how my hip is doing it. When I swing a bat, my hip hits. I don't want to be doing this or doing that like a boy. I want to do it with my hips like a girl. So I'm going to feel where my hip connects to my grip, just like when I throw a punch, and I'm going to grab the lapel here. And I'm going to feel what happens when I use my arm only, it's weak, and then when I use my hip. My arm is weak, I try harder, now I engage my hip, and I can pull them and I can push them. When my arm does this, and I try harder, it sucks. When my hip engages, I can move them. So I'm feeling where my hip connects to my grip. Make sense? Good.
Jacob, you're a great teacher. Good job, buddy.
Judo. Do they let white belts in the judo compete now?
Who does judo? Anyone?
I don't
Who does judo?
But back in the olden days, when you got a blue belt, it meant you were ready to compete. But promoters want to make money, so they open a white belt bracket and make a bunch of money. White belts should fucking compete. They're not fucking ready. But that's a whole other story. All right. So I grab that grip and I'm feeling my hip. He grabs his. And we both have a grip now. Then, this is really a drilling spot. Like, you don't want to just walk out like white belts do and go, let's do this. And agree to lock horns. Wrestlers often do this, agree to lock horns, which is like fine, we all do it. It's part sort of thing, but be consciously aware that you are agreeing to clockwise. So I grab, he grabs. I'm going to palm his elbow, because what I really want is control of his elbow. So what happens is, because he's wearing cloth, we reach up and we grab he, and we forget that I'm trying to control the elbow. And like I grab some cloth, I pinch his cloth on his tight Armani suit feet, I grab a chunk of it, he yanks his arm out, it hurts my hand. I try to grab it harder. I do a bunch of grip strength. I do Horizon Fitness kettlebell, grip stretcher, UFC magazine. And I reach back and I grab fucking hard and he yanks his arm. And it hurts even worse. Like, fuck, I spent a month trying to improve my grip. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to palm his elbow. Because what I want to control is his elbow. And whatever cloth I get, that's the light part of it, not the grippy part, not the heavy part. I'm lightly grabbing and palming his elbow. And I want to feel if he tries to move his arm out of the way, what I'm controlling is his elbow. Get that arm out of there. It's the elbow I want, not the cloth. Get your elbow out. It's really easy. I'm feeling the elbow and controlling it. Now he's starting to ride the horse. If he rides the horse too much, I'm going to blast him. Remind him, insist on a lead. Then he reaches up and palms my elbow. And we both relax, utterly relax. And feel where there's my hip power, my elbow control. He feels that. Feels that hip. That power moves me around. And if any time I'm not holding a frame here, he's going to lift my elbow straight into the air and tilt me over. Right? If I'm not holding a frame, he's going to twist and tilt. Other way? Yes, like that. So he's forcing me to have to frame. I want him to have to frame that arm. Like that. Make sense? Okay, do it. Go. He should be like stopping at this point and train just an hour on stance and grips. That would be better in the long run for your jiu-jitsu. But we're going to move on and branch out of this. And by now, especially all the upper belts, we can clearly see how judo, because it's based on who gets the throw, jiu-jitsu based on who gets the sub, they evolve. Because if we spend all our time with this, when are we going to do fucking jiu-jitsu, coach? I might as well have done judo. And when you grapple all the time in the judo class, you're like, this won't help me win. I got to be able to throw the guy. And they do this little veering off thing, right? Because you came to a jiu-jitsu thing and you're expecting to do this on the ground. Now, way back in the olden days, before UFC, people didn't have expectations. And we always did shit stampede. But everybody wanted to learn how Royce Gracie beat the guy on the ground. So jiu-jitsu guys started to abandon the stand-up part, and the sport began to add rules that punished the guys who did really good throws and rewarded guys who pull guards. And that's what changed the sport, right? It's because in spite of your will, you will adapt to the environment in which you are in. The problem is our egos think we won't. Okay, so anyways, we've grabbed our stance. And right now, not to insult you in any way, because I do the same fucking thing, we're both riding the horse. Because when it's grappling rules only, we want to be ready. Our nose goes over the toes. Pull your nose over your toes. And we end up in that spot where it's really easy to get hit. That's why when you train grapplers to do MMA, you spend the first couple of months rewiring instincts. Because the instincts are so strong and have been reinforced for decades, right? So we grab our grips. Look, I insist on the lead, he does too. I relax everything. I want to feel my independent hips, light feet, but my hips are heavy coming down, but my feet are light. I don't want to have light hips and heavy feet, or I move like this. I want to have heavy hips, light feet, like I can hacky sack here, I can move my feet, I can dance. I want to feel nice and light feet. Then the first thing I'm gonna do, and we're gonna skip over this because it'll take a fucking hour, is there's a whole axis up here where there's twisting, tilting, punch and pull, lift and sag. That's a whole other thing that we don't have time for. So I'm gonna reach over, I'm gonna grab his thumb, and immediately my other hand comes up. I keep my eye on my opponent. I look at the grip and do this. I keep my eye on my opponent. I grab that hand, moving my body. I pop it right in front of his face. So he can't punch me in the face with his other hand. If I do it like this, I get hit. Or he takes my back, right? I want to have my lower body's alive, and I'm popping it, holding right there, so even if he punches and grabs, I got him like Steven Seagal right now, right? Grabbing that wrist. Make sense? Okay,
sir.
Grip breaks, go.
Everybody.
Who's a fucking plumber all day long, 40 fucking pounds, he's a forger. Back in the old days, pre-electric tools, when I was a kid, it was known the guys who had the strongest grip in the trades were, guess who?
Electrician.
This, screwing in fucking screws all day long, try that. You turn into Popeye. It's like those guys just go, right? But then came, and now they're the nerdiest of the trades, right? But anyways, we each have our grit, we're holding this, we're feeling our line, and he's got one of those bomb-proof grips, and there are good tricks to learn how to have a bomb-proof grip. I'm gonna just a little briefly cover it. A lot of it is, it's all about the pinky. It's about doing this and having a loose little trigger finger. Then there's the claw grip, where it's about this and a loose pinky. But once, like how you rock climbers or whatever, once the rope makes that a quarter bite, it locks on itself. You're doing that with your hand. So instead of just like a rope hanging over where you gotta hold it with your grip, you're looping it where it locks into it. You're locking the key onto your hand by curling the rope and pinky locking it to where there is no direct line of break. Because most breaks, the direct line is here, right? When you do this, then that direct line is gone. And I'm connecting it on my hip. And I know he wants to remove the grip. And if I stiffen up, remove that grip, it hurts. But if I relax, remove the grip, and wherever he goes, I like almost feel which way he wants to break it, and my hip goes up, matches it, where I'm doing this. So go ahead and break it. But then he gets skilled and knows how to isolate it and gets my grip off, right? And then he gets his grip really good, and I don't even want to try because I do this and I can't get it off, and he takes my back, right? Or whatever it is. So then you have my preferred, as I've aged and I'm arthritic, is an elbow smash. And I'm not trying to take my arm and do a big arm movement. I'm merely bringing my elbow up and I'm smashing down to capture his butt. I am chasing his ass. Okay? I want to grab butt cheek. So my elbow's coming over, I'm bringing my head in, and I'm grabbing his butt, his wallet. Whoever has the lower hips is good. If my hips are higher, he can hip throw me. If my hips are lower, good luck. He can't try to hip throw me. As long as I just keep lowering my hips, I'm gonna win that fight. Right? So, nice and slow for the magazine, step 1 through 5. Thing 1, grips. Slide elbow up until the elbows are a thing. Begin to smash the forearm. Head comes in, my grip pull. Reach and grab the butt. Step to the side. Time, move it around. Right. Do one, elbow goes over, and if you hold on, you can wrist lock you. Right? It's kind of under your right ear, actually, like a lot of that. supports everything. I do this. Even if he's way out here and I can't move in, I can go right into my valley drop where I'm just looking for that back foot. And now that I'm old, it doesn't look as smooth anymore. This back foot is, my hip is following as I'm reaching around.
Oh shit.
Down, right? And if I fuck up, I have a guard. And when you fuck up, it looks like you pulled guard. Fuck, looks, you pulled guard. No, I fucking didn't. It just looked like it. Okay, go. In a sport match, and this would be one of the things that I used to not show a lot if I'm competing, because you don't want to fucking show the move to the bad guy, because then the bad guy uses it on you. And I don't know about you guys, but I've spent hours analyzing the ethics and philosophy of who do you teach and what would you teach. And ultimately, in an age of thermonuclear war, rising the political extremism, and AI, what jiu-jitsu move I showed, the stakes couldn't be so low, right? Who fucking cares? But on a personal note, like if I'm competing, like one of my black belts, who for a while was regularly competing, would show me, and he would ask me, don't show that on film, because in the age of YouTube, you could look up your opponent and see what moves they do, right? Just like, never mind, but, all right, so, even when I'm way out here, I would practice, can I pull this, the valley drop from way here, and if I mess up, that's where it leads into all those fun kind of guard pulls. But we ain't gonna do that. So, we will do one of my favorite takedowns, and then we're on the ground. Now, I try to pretend that I'm kind of like a mime, and what my hips do is totally independent of my hands. I want to be able to get my hips doing things without my hands giving away exactly what I want to do. Because if I shoot and I give it away with my hands, he feels it. I want to trick him with my hands. Look, I pulled a rabbit out of your key. It's like magic. And I'm feeling where my independent hip can get into the inside. And one of my favorite ones is my rear leg, because I have a weird stance. Because most right-handed grapplers lead with their right foot. But from boxing, I lead with my left foot. But my hand part is right-handed-ish. So once the clinch happens, I change leads, and it just kind of happens. We're over here doing this, now my lead changes, right? I just allow that lead change to happen. We're here, my lead change happened. Then my independent hips are coming in, and I'm hooking the foot. Not to do the takedown, but to hook it. When he wants to unhook it, he's done. He's going to lift his leg up, unhook it, step back behind you. And I almost know that that foot is going to keep stepping behind, just like that. Okay? So as I'm maneuvering around, I do this. As soon as I do that, then I ankle snatch. Now in judo, because you're not allowed to grab legs, you would do this and then tie a tosh. Right there, right? This, he escapes, you tie a tosh. You attempt Uchimata, he escapes, you tie a tosh. And I'm a wrestler. So instead I do this, that's when I shoot. Right? You get that pick, that foot if you want. And it's good to feel like you can really balance this and time that. So you can catch that. Okay? Go. It's a fight now, right? You take the foot. You want that foot. Okay, go. With our hands, we do this. So I'm reaching with my hands. I want to feel like I'm reaching with my hip. Right? My hips are doing this, and my hands backing up. Not this. This. Right? Go. Reach with your hands. This grip can definitely do most of the work if I needed to, right? I want to feel that grip. Go. Judo, which happened a long time before IBJJF ruined the jiu-jitsu from that perspective, right? And I actually don't believe that. Like, there are a lot of people that are completely anti-rules. But if you think of the whole thing as a giant experiment, if we always included strikes, the guard would have never developed the way it did. Judo would have never developed the way it did. The reasons why in like the judo you can't do ankle kicks and legs, because within 3 months it would look like a jiu-jitsu fight. We'd all be out here avoiding, it would be all about leg grabbing and the thing, and within a year the art of the upright throw would be lost. So in the sense of, in my triangle of threes, in one sense you're trying to preserve the art, but you're balancing that with the realistic. How can we train this realistic without gouging each other's eyes out and kicking each other in the nuts? So you're adding rules to preserve the art. Then what happens is, like all things, once humans have it, they figure out how to push the boundaries of the rules as far as they can, and as long as they don't get punished, they will keep doing it. That's why we have law and order, which is why I often say, people think, oh, coach, you're a flaming liberal. Say, no. In a sense, I am conservative as fuck. I am about the preservation of institution and law and order. And we don't get to fucking cheat rules. If you lose, you fucking lose. But anyways, okay, give me a minute. But as we all know, there are people who compete out there in various things who will literally cheer like they really won when they know they cheated. And just philosophically and ethically, I remember finding that bizarre. I remember this, yeah. I remember that dude, Melissa, these chicks will cheat and they'll act like they want to fight. It's like, how the fuck do you have that low of self-esteem or morality or ethics to pretend you fucking won when you fucking didn't? Just say, no, I lost, and come back and fight a better fight the next time. Because then no more rants. So, I say, the guard happens when somehow I fucked up and he throws me down on the ground and boom, I end up in the guard. We have the closed guard. How much longer until Melissa teaches?
Whenever you're done, sir.
Okay.
It's
So,
2:10, which shouldn't be too long. It's 2:10.
okay, so, and also, I just want to say, when you get old, you start thinking about all this shit because you lose sleep at night for other reasons, and then for some reason, this shit, like, why did jiu-jitsu do that? Like, but there was a long period of time when I was, well, it wasn't that long, from white belt to the purple belt, where we strictly learned passing posture. And then MMA was blowing up at the same time sport that jiu-jitsu was. And for a brief period of time, passing the posture was kind of a lost art. And maybe it's just my ego and arrogance, but I swear to God, I was in Horion's garage and I heard the black belts ask one of the Americans, what do you call this position? And somehow it ended up posture, which is the worst term, because really it's slump. Because when our brains hear posture, we think this, the ballet, when really it's slump. So instead of, come on, get your posture. And I'd be, come on, slump harder. Because good posture is a slump. Good ballet posture is bad for grappling. And then what happened is even the next generation of Brazilians started posturing here. And anything you do long enough, you'll get good at it. So people got okay at this arch back attack me, using their hands as a shield, and I'm in really good posture, whereas really the slump attacking was much better, because then my hands are keep attacking as I talk, because I want to be able to pull off a well-aimed round while my opponent is attacking me. And I can do that if my hips are in really good fucking posture. If they're not, I need my hands, which are my weapons, in order to defend. And there's really cool guards that completely evolved out of this that I also love. But as I said, we're going back to the 50-million-year-old ancestral cat. And in that cat, I want to have this nice, slumpy posture. And because I like threes of everything, we have what I call passing posture, neutral posture, shrug, safety posture, neutral posture, passing posture. Passing's pretty safe. Safety is safe. This is in the danger zone. Here's where all the exchange happens. You can armbar me here, and I got some really cool passes here too. And I want to ideally, neutral is a transition of position. Kind of like how in the early days, half guard wasn't a position. It was a transition. You were half passed, or you half recovered your guard. And everything was about getting the full guard back. But then half guard blossomed but developed into a whole fucking art and game, which I also love. And that would have never happened if we always included stripes. Nobody would ever stay and figure out half guard game if you're getting punched in the face. So that's why I always say you think street. That's why I don't say you practice it. I say you think it. Because if you think it always, you'll not only understand your jiu-jitsu, but you'll quickly feel your opponent's holds. If that makes sense. So, passing, posture, neutral, safety. So I fucked up, and I'm now, my opponent is in my guard. My guard neutralizes the shitty fact that I'm on bottom. It neutralizes it so well, in fact, that I like the guard. And then we start choosing guard, because the guard is a great way to neutralize the shitty fact you're on bottom. Because what are the golden rules? Number one, be the guy on top. Number two, win on top, stay on top. Number three, win on bottom, have an unpassable guard. You shall not pass. Number four, never forget rule number one, easily forgotten, due to the seductive, lazy, and rewarding nature of guard. And there's not an upper belt in here who doesn't know that when that 23-year-old ex-water polo CrossFit blue belt who weighs 30 pounds more wants to have a takedown battle, you're like, fuck, I'm going to pull guard. Because you know you're going to beat him, and you don't have to risk getting your toe twisted on the mat or blowing your knee out again. But the guard is what enables this art to do it at my age. But judo, you pretty much after 50, I mean, you can participate, but you're all done with impact. It just hurts. The impact hurts. I remember being young, and I mean, we would do break falls and warm-ups and all this. I didn't do that shit. I had a headache all day after the break. My brain bouncing in my skull just hurts, right? But jiu-jitsu is the art you can age with. Okay, so we're having a hip fight, a grip fight, and a head fight. The jiu-jitsu guys forget about the head a lot. Wrestlers don't, because it's a very head and arm oriented game. We're always grabbing the head. But jiu-jitsu guys forget. They're grabbing cloth, they forget the head's even there. But I want to think about my threes. We're having a hip battling him. And right now, he has pretty good posture. He's slumped. I can pull really hard. He won't go. I want to feel where his hips are. And in his posture in there, he can tilt his hips this way, boy, I can do that very well, and this way, feeling the axes of tilt, right? What happens is, we get stiff and we panic, we only would do this. And all the upper belts, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, you feel that when you're locking a guard on an opponent. You can feel right away whether they know something or not. That's why, as much as YouTube is awesome, YouTube, you miss the feel. You can almost trick yourself into thinking you know a bunch of shit because you've seen it and can rehearse it, but then you actually try it and you're like, fuck, it's a whole other deal when it's an opponent who has skill, who has that hip awareness. One of the drills I like is I imagine there's an electric ceiling over my head. And if my head touches it, I shock. And I want to be able to move my hips without my head even moving. I don't want to gyrate like this. I want to feel my independent hips. And when I'm feeling from the guard part, his independent hips, I go, fuck, he's got independent hips. I want to grab the grip and I'm connecting to his spine. And I'm feeling his head. And I'm feeling where my tailbone can touch the mat. Now I'm in there. And he wants to kind of pinch his legs a bit to control my hips. So his knees are now controlling mine. And just this first one is just old school. I place a hand on his knee and I pull and I can break his posture. Hold his posture. I can't. I can break it. I can't. I pull really hard. I can't. I find the pivot point and I break his posture. Okay, go. Boy, I can talk. You guys can go, fuck, that was the worst jiu-jitsu seminar ever. We only did one thing. So, I want to keep my hands as my weapons, not balancing posting tools, right? And when you put your hand here, you can punch me in the face. So I'm going to figure out, just like when we stand, I'm controlling that elbow and grip. I'm going to feel where my hip can attack the femurs. I'm pushing into his, so as I press into the femur, then I'm making a tilt and I'm lifting to break that posture with my grips and hips. I'm feeling that. And he'll get skilled at holding the posture. And I want him to have to use his arms. I want to know that he has to use his arms. If he tries to punch me now, he's going to lose his posture. But if I'm just holding here, he can use his hands all over the place. I want to connect and feel where I can lift him up off of the base, and I'm tilting him, and then you do the knee tap. Okay, go.
Coach, hold on really quick.
Yes.
Julie, get back this far. So when you're going, it's almost like you're scooping your hips up underneath them.
Yes.
Like that.
I'm attacking his base, pushing open his base. Make sense? I'm attacking his base with my hips. So I barely have to pull. And I'm bringing that head down so I could start to attack his neck. Okay, go.
Thanks, okay for this.
It's boring and bad on film too, right? Because he's not a bitch in the little suit. So when he has really good posture, and I knee tap, and he's adjusting his hip just right to kill it, right? That's where your other lines of attack come. Like, see how I drop this, and I begin to press it in the ankle right here? Now I've captured his foot. Then I can crash through his posture. And there's all kinds of those things that when you work these out with really good partners, and work slow. One of the best ways of sparring that we would do all the time in the olden days is you spar just, you isolate one thing. You go, okay guys, we do guard. If you stand up, you win. Go. And then the only goal that he has is he's got to stand up. And if he stands up, he wins. Then we switch it over and I stand up. You do that for 20 minutes, changing the partners, different body styles and all that. You get that. You internally wire the familiarity you need, because sometimes when we drill and it's with one person the whole time, then the next class we attempt to spar, it doesn't work worth shit because we haven't drilled it right, we haven't isolated it right. That the method, you introduce, isolate, integrate. Another 3, introduce the move, isolate it, repetitive sparring, resistance, then you integrate it in your whole game. So I'm here, I'm attacking, I'm feeling where I can attack that, and I just slide that foot down and I start to attack the sides of his body. And I'm feeling where I got arm bars in there, where the neck is, how I'm gonna climb. Sometimes even practicing where I'm gonna open the guard and sweep, right? And I'm often asked by the guy who's small, or a human who's small, Coach, what do you do when there are those big fucking guys you can't go across your ankles? You open your guard, right? I don't want to be around this huge guy trying to hold a guard where then as he presses my guard, he's gonna pass. I wanna say, shit, I can't. Now I'm playing an open guard game, right? And because you're switching the game, because you're trying to play the game on your terms, not theirs. Same time, trying to convince your opponent that he's playing on his terms. That's the mental part where you catch them in the tracks, right? And with that, I'm going to pass the next section on over to Melissa.
So, thanks everybody for coming. Thank you for helping to organize with Cowboy Jiu-Jitsu, and thank you guys so much for allowing us to use your space. Katie for organizing, and Mark, flyers and money collection, and Joanna with gear, and who else do I have to thank? Everybody who showed up. Everybody here. I want to thank Alan, because Alan's been very supportive in helping to pump up Combat Base and bringing some friends from Fresno. So I think that's really awesome. And I think that Chris is being too hard on himself and talking shit about himself, because what I appreciate a lot about how he teaches is that he's very much rooted in principles rather than techniques. So when you learn what he's teaching and you can apply these principles, he can teach you a bunch of flashy moves and you probably won't remember any of it, or you'll be running back to your notebook trying to jot down, first you put the hand there, then you put the hand there. And you know, when we learn according to principles, I feel like even as new white belts, we can take that back and apply it into our games without having to think, what's step A, what's step B, what's step C, right? So I asked Katie, and she said top position submissions was something that some people wanted to work on, so we are going to work on that. Oh, Jacob. So one of the things how I wanted to integrate this from what Chris was talking about with the hips before we even go there, so we can kind of have a little bit of a transition. He wanted to provide me one, but that's okay. I don't do it. I can make my own. But talking about the hips, right, and also the horse. If I stand like this, I'm in the worst possible position for passing guard. You can lift me up. You can grab my ankles and back sweep me, right? All these different things that I don't want him to do. So when I'm passing guard, and I know a lot of big guys out there who could probably get away with this because they're big. So one of the good things about me and Jacob teaching jiu-jitsu is that we're both a little bit slight. And there's one thing I can guarantee everybody in this room, that there's somebody bigger than you out there. You who will F you up if you don't have the principles of jiu-jitsu securely in place, right? So, you know, I got some big guys and they do this stuff to me, breaking every single rule, which another thing Chris says all the time that I love, the rules, we learn them, and then once they're ingrained in our heads, we get to break them. But it doesn't work the other way around. Because first you have to have that default mode. So like the rule for me that I learned is that I don't stand in the horse stance. I stand with, you know, 1 foot back. So when I'm passing guard, I'm gonna stand with 1 foot back, and I'm gonna have very similar hips forward, right? Because this is also very beneficial, because if he starts to sweep me, I can drop into combat base, right? If he starts to sweep me from combat base, I can drop to 2 knees down. And I can transition between what I call the 3 levels of base so that I don't get swept. So I'm just gonna practice this first. I also have posture. I think it's posture. It doesn't feel like a slump to me from this position. It feels like posture, but it's not ballerina posture. It's jiu-jitsu posture with back shoulders, and I'm ready to protect my neck if I need to. I'm ready to put my hands up and block my knockout triangle if I need to. And I can drop down into combat base. I can drop to 2 knees down, and I can move around side to side. But I'm absolutely not stepping with my feet parallel, and I'm not going on the balance beam, right? It's the same thing, but once he's on the ground. And I can start to pass with my hips, right? So that's what we're gonna do first before we go into top position. We're just gonna move around, and we're gonna see, he's gonna go with me. We're gonna see, or he can even go first, and I can follow him. As I'm trying to pass his guard with my hips forward. And you might say, well, what do you do with your hands? Well, I don't care, because if you don't have the right hips, I don't care what you do with your hands, right? We have to get this hips passing hips in first before we can start worrying about, like, because if I just pull and I'm just trying to pass his guard with my arms, that's not going to work. So I'm just going side to side, not bending over at my waist, not looking down with my neck, and I'm looking up and just feeling this position. So let's do that first, and then we'll work into a pass in top position. There you go, Jimmy. Okay, so a lot of you guys are doing this. Okay, so how am I going to drop into combat base? I mean, I guess I can, kinda, but I'm going to have a better combat base if I have a lead leg in front and a rear leg behind. See? And also, if I'm going around like this, he can still reach my ankle. Okay? Especially if he's Rob.
Yes.
Like if he's much taller than me, he's going to be reaching my ankle. Let's use Rob for a second.
Yeah, Rob, get in there.
Come on, Rob. So here's Rob. Spider-Man. Okay, Rob's legs are like as long as my whole body. Okay? So if I stand like this and I'm going side to side, he's got me so easy. So I got to keep one leg out of the fight. Grab my back leg, Rob. Grab my back leg. You can't grab my back leg. You just got to really reach to grab my back leg. I can keep that leg out of the fight. If he does reach to grab it, and it gets close, I can drop to combat base. That's how I shut the sweep down. See? So try to really keep that stack. We just practiced this for like fucking 3 hours. So let's try to keep the back leg out of the fight. Try one more time and we'll watch. Didn't do that when you were teaching. I'm totally playing with this. Okay, so I'm going to grab the insides of his pants knees. Why do I like to grab them? Some people like to grab the feet, some people like to grab the shins. I feel like by grabbing the inside of his pants knee, I can feel the ball and socket joint where his hip moves around. If I grab here, I don't really feel it as much. I feel like he can move his whole knee and I don't really know which way it's going. So from here, I actually feel like I can feel into the ball and socket joint. So I'm going to grab the insides. You do it how you want to do it. I'm not going to be too picky on that. But I am going to be picky on when you guys do this. Because this isn't how you do it. Okay? I mean, you can later. You can anytime. You don't have to take any of my advice. What do I really know? I've just been doing this shit for a long time. All right, so we're here. I'm going to push the knees into the chest. I'm going to pull the knees down. And I'm going to throw them to the side and come around into my favorite position, which is side control. There's 3 types of side control, like Chris says. Chris likes to say there's probably 100 types of side control. He says there's a wrestler way, the case said the Gatami way, judo, and then there's the jujitsu way. So the way I just did it is the jujitsu way. I'm gonna push the knees into his chest, pull the legs down, and that's right. You want to sit up because you don't want me to separate your chest from your quads, right? Then I'm gonna throw his legs to the side, walk around. This elbow drops at his ear, armpit across his neck. This hand is called the guard blocker. My head comes down, I'm gonna lie my head on top of his chest. I'm on my toes, so I can put all my weight right here, heart-to-heart contact. I like my partner to do this to protect their boobs and their chest when I lay my weight on top of it. I'm gonna push myself up and come over and do it again. I might go the other direction. I have a staggered stance. I'm on the balls of my feet. My rear heel is off the deck. My hips are in a pelvic tilt. I could drop into combat base if I wanted to. My elbows are in. My posture is up. Push, pull, throw them to the side, come around to the perfect position, which is where my armpit goes across his neck. When I teach, a lot of times I do this to look at you, but I don't want to do this because then Jacob could take this and push it on my neck, and then I don't like it. So instead, I want to practice coming down with my head as well. Armpit across his neck, guard blocker in place, on my toes, pop up. One more time, all the keys. Okay? Got it? Go. Would it be better if you landed right here? No. Because if I land right here, then Jacob pushes me off. Yeah, and that sucks because that will happen to me 100% of the time if I don't land right here. And then when you go back and you try to do this at your gym and you land on their belly, you go, oh, Melissa, how she sucks. She's the worst teacher ever. She'd help you. That's not my joke. Okay, so anyways, I'm here, okay? I'm gonna land on his neck. Now, another one that people like to do is, maybe they like to do this, or they like to do this, okay? If your hand is blocking the guard, you don't also need a knee blocker. You can keep your legs back. Why does that matter? Okay, because if I'm here, I'm putting weight on my knee. If I'm here, I'm putting weight on him, okay? So you want to be here for this drill. This also allows me to walk to the other side. I don't have to pick my hands up off the mat. I don't have to release any weight or pressure from him. I can walk side to side. It's getting so much harder when you get old. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to need a hip replacement. So, I know, right? Sucks. And it doesn't have anything to do with jujitsu, so don't get scared. I would be this way if I was a rock climber or a ballerina or whatever. Okay, because I'm like a German shepherd and I have hip dysplasia. So anyways, that's the next drill, is we're gonna start where we wanna land. You wanna land, if you didn't put your deodorant on, you might be a little self-conscious, but this is the way you hold bigger people down, right, Jacob? You control their neck. You put your armpit right across their neck and you kind of like squeeze their neck between your lat and your elbow that's on the mat. You keep your head down so you don't get pushed. You have to have his hand checking his hip. Move around, Jacob. He's trying to get out. He's trying to recover guard. This hand just on the mat, palm down. I can hold on to his knee if I want, hold on to his hip. But this hand blocks the guard recovery. Then I try to keep my hips down as low as I can so I can walk to the other side and I keep that hold down. So just do that, go back and forth side to side a little bit and feel that transition. As we're spinning around, we're sinking down to the belly button. And then he can push me off, right? So we want to be conscious of that we're not sinking down to the belly button. But now is the fun part. We want to do some submissions, right? So we want to try to attack mostly from this position. My game is, most people know that I like to do arm bars. I don't really do chokes from here, but maybe in another life or next year or something, I'll start experimenting with that more. We're going to work on the arms first. So right here in this position, I feel like I could catch a little elbow drift.
when you're the person on the bottom, you really want to work on this on the bottom, right? The bottom person wants to work on having their really good protecting their neck and protecting their elbows and keeping them in at their rib cage so that they could be a little ball and not get submitted, okay? But for this drill, we're going to try to open them up from this position on our toes. So right here, I feel like I can get a little space. I'm starting to open him up. So this is what Chris would call arm harvesting, right? And some of you guys might know some chokes that involve some shit like that. I probably could learn that. I mean, I'm not going to teach that though, because I don't do that. I'm going to teach you shit that I actually do. So I'm going to open these up, okay? Once I start to open them up, I'm going to start to attack. Now, in an arm lock, you have to control the shoulder joint, just like I was talking about the hip joint earlier. The ball and socket joint, the shoulder's the same way, right? It rotates around. And I have to control that whole joint if I'm going to be able to hyperextend this elbow. So whenever we say arm lock, people focus so much on this, and they don't focus on the shoulder, right? And that's a principle that I think most of you guys could take away today, even if you don't learn anything else, is that when you're doing an arm lock, you got to control the shoulder. If you want to hyperextend the elbow, you have to control the shoulder and the wrist to hyperextend the elbow. So we just practiced opening him up from the top. We're here. I'm feeling my tricep on his elbow. Okay? That opens him up. I feel my tricep on his elbow. I'm going to go for the far side arm lock right now. So I'm going to reach around this shoulder joint and I'm going to grab my gi. Okay? If you guys are doing no-gi, you can grab the back of your head. I always really like that. I thought it was pretty cool. If the gi is there, like Chris says, you're wearing one, you might as well use it. You're not wearing one, you'll use it, right? So from here, let's see how this works with my messed up hip. We're going to walk around to north-south. And as we walk around to north-south, we're coming up on our knees. And look what this leg did. It went right to his neck. Because that's another principle. You control the neck, you control the body. It's a good thing Jacob knows me because my butt is on his face. So anyways, and I'm controlling his shoulder. That's why I picked him. Now, see how tight that is? I'm controlling his neck, right? The same thing I was doing with my armpit and my lat. So there might be something to that. The more control you can have of a person's neck, the better your control is going to be. Now, this is the part that I have a hard time with. Chris is brushing his teeth. I'm going to take my right knee and put it in his armpit. And then I'm just going to sit back and pinch my knees. Now notice how my arm lock ends. It does not end like this. Okay, if my arm lock ends like this, it's not going to be as good. Because what Chris taught me is that all arm locks are a hold down first. I don't want to have a habit of just flying into my arm bar and sometimes they escape because my timing was off. I want to have the ability to hold this position for 5 minutes if I need to, and then I can work to get my arm bar. Like even if he's defending, right? Like I can still hold this position, and there's lots of different stuff that I can do to work to get the arm that I want. And I'm not going to go, can you feel it yet? Can you feel it yet? Because I don't want to add extra wear and tear onto his elbow joint. I'm just going to know that right here, if I grab his elbow and I get my hips up a little bit and I pull his arm the opposite direction of his thumb, I start to hyperextend the ligaments in his elbow. And then, because if you can't do all that part that I just showed you, it doesn't matter if he can feel it yet, because you're not going to get the fucking thing anyways. All right, we're over here. We're opening it up, okay? We're going to come around the shoulder joint and grab the lapel. We're going to walk to north-south, and as we do that, we're going to roll them up on their side, and then we're going to replace what our armpit was doing with our butt and our heel, okay? And I'm still controlling that shoulder joint. Then, this is the hard part, knee up, okay? Pinching the knees. You don't have to do this. You can if you want, but you don't have to. And remember, we're focusing on this hold down, pinching the knees, and then we do the elbow, okay? If you have any specific mobility issues and you'd like me to come troubleshoot with you, I'm happy to do that. 1, 2, 3, go. So I think what I did is I went around the outside, right, and I grabbed the lapel. I walked around to his head, and I pulled him up this way, and then my foot, the bottom of my foot goes to his neck, right? I'm not on my knees. We can do this too. In fact, we can do this in turn into Kimura. I like that one. That's what I was going to do next. Okay? So we're going to do this for now. Then we're going to turn and our knee goes in the armpit. And then we're going to sit back. Okay? Did you do that? Yeah. All right. Then let's do the next one. We don't want to be here all day. So, like I said, maybe you have a hard time coming up on your foot like that. So maybe you just want to control him from your knees. And you want to come underneath. You're still grabbing your lapel, but now you can grab his wrist and you can come back into Kimura. You might want to come up with this bad knee and put it in his rib cage because that controls him more. If I'm just like this, move around, Jacob, he can move his hips, right? And if I'm not controlling his hips, it's going to be really hard for me to do anything to him. And if I come here, move around, okay, it's a little harder for him. And if he wants to go belly down, that's fine because that's the worst position for anybody to be in ever in their life. And that's how I got my kidney broken. All right, go get your kidneys broken. Okay, so I'm going to grab my forearm, wrist. If he breaks his wrist, I'm just going to wrist lock him right here. But otherwise, I'm going to try to take it back. He might grab his belt right here, and that's fine too, because I'm going to spin and I'm going to arm bar him this way. Okay, so there's a 3-in-1. That's a 3-in-1 for you. 3-in-1s are the best. The more attacks that you have at the same time, the better, higher percentage that you're going to land one, right? If I'm just trying to go arm bar, arm bar, arm bar, arm bar, this is a Chris line. I'm as readable as hop on pop. But if I'm trying to have a multiple pronged attack, whether that's 3 or 4 or 5 different possibilities that are going on at the same time, fire drill, then it's going to be better for me to possibly land the submission. Okay, so I'm opening him up. This time I went around. See, I still went around his shoulder. Grab my lapel. I'm going to roll him up on his side. I might keep my knees down at first. Grab a hold of his wrist. Put my knee in his rib cage. If you want to have one knee down on the ground, you can do that too. You got to feel your body, right? You'll think about a wrist lock right here because you should think about it. And then we're going to think about a Kimura. Think about him defending. Think about spinning an arm lock. There's your 3-for-1. Give it a try. What did you learn? If you're the smaller person, that you're not married to anything. I think me and Alan talked about that. We're not trying to be married to positions like I'm going to stay in this position no matter what. We have to know when it's time to bail. Because I'd rather bail to another dominant position than get put into a bad position. This is my philosophy. Sometimes I still get put into the bad position. Of course, we all do. But if I can prevent it, I would rather. Would you rather? I would rather bail. So I'm in side control. He's moving around. I'm trying to do my attack. I'm not getting anything. Maybe I want to improve this and take him out, right? That's what we did last time, right? We went right from this side control, which we call the jiu-jitsu side control. That's what Chris calls it. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Call it whatever you want. Well, I'm going to just say that because then you know what I'm talking about. That's how language works. So kind of Chris Haueter speech right now. Then I'm going to go on my hip, and with my far foot, I'm going to do a giant step over him, and my toes are going to land first, not the side of my foot. Because whenever I did that really hard on the side of my foot, I sprained my ankle. Then, if he's all crazy right here, and he's moving around and doing all kinds of stuff, I want to feel like I can fall forward and pop up into a knee on belly, right? And then he's all crazy right here and he's moving around, and I want to feel like I can go right back to my preferred jiu-jitsu side control. Now, my coach told me that I was only allowed to do this side control till I was a purple belt, because what that meant was I had practiced that for like 4 years, right? And then once I was a purple belt, I got to experiment with other ones. But guess what? When I was a purple belt, I found out that this worked so good that I didn't need the other ones. So I still only basically do it this way. Anyways, and Joanne too. And it's fine. I don't care. You can do it different ways if you want. This is what allows me to hold big guys like Brian Moody down. So then I'm going to switch my hip. I'm going to do a giant step over. I'm not going to leave my foot over here where he can trap it. I'm going to keep it out of the way. Giant step, fall forward into my mat, he's swirly, he lifts, I come, I free my feet, I pop up into my knee right. I like to have my foot out like this as opposed to like this, because if he's really gnarly and he's moving around, I feel like I don't have as good of a base right here as I do right here. This is just structure. Then the important part is we're going back to our side control again. This is a drill for that position. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay, go through that a few times. We're just going to do a couple more stuff and then we're going to be done.
Walk through 3 times without words.
Such an obedient life.
Melissa Haueter chowder. Huh?
That's enough movement for today. 1, 2, 3, go. That's okay. So we came here, we did our giant step over, and we were working on them out. We couldn't really get anything. And somebody wanted to work on chokes. So I'm just going to show you my favorite choke from the top position. And I want to go on this side because it's easier for me. So I'm going to do that. Look, this is a good drill too. You know how to do that? Oh my God. Fun. So my favorite choke is the baseball bat choke from here, which my friend used to call the taco choke. Okay, so I'm going to use why I should call it a taco choke. Because one of the key parts that I think people forget about it, I know I do. Like, why didn't that work? Because I forgot the taco part. Oh, you know what? How's your abdomen? Fine. Okay.
Melissa, he does have huge vertebrae in his neck. Just like
Who wants you? Okay, yeah. Young guy. Get the young guy. This really, really young stud. Really young stud. You say louder? This young stud that lifts a lot of heavy things, I'm going to taco him first, right? That doesn't even bother him, okay? That's the taco part. Now my knee is the meat and the lettuce and the cheese. And I'm pulling him up, and then after I taco him, I'm going to try to keep that pressure as I drop my wrist across his carotid artery right here. Taco, drop, come across, and then sprawl, right? If you do the taco part, then the whole other part works better. We're not going to do it as hard. But we're just going to, you don't have to do it that hard in your partner. He has a fused vertebrae. I have spinal stenosis, arthritis, all this shit. People are getting vertebrae replaced and all these things. I don't want somebody drilling into my neck and taking stuff out. Anyways, let's not talk about that. That probably is from jiu-jitsu. Just saying. So do it smart. Okay, we're going to lift him, tackle him, start to drop this across as we walk around to our north-south position and come occluding those carotid arteries. Because remember, guys, just like arm locks control the shoulder joint, chokes are occlusion of the carotid arteries. So if you're just pulling on him and going, why isn't this working? It's because he's still having blood flow to his brain on one side. You can occlude one side and still have blood flow to your brain on the other side. You have to I can make my own self pass out. You don't want to do that, but just think about that when you're trying to choke someone. Okay? That's it. That's the last move. 1, 2, 3, go. One for last. Right? Then to just give you like, oh, did you this, you're gonna forget something anyways, right? Because I forgot something. I forgot to point out what this hand is doing. I said you have to occlude both arteries, but how? And some of you already know because you're amazing. Okay, so I feel like the closer I get these grips back here, maybe the better. Get those down there. I'm gonna do my tacos, and I'm dropping this across her neck. But this one on the far, well, so this is like the main hand, right? The main hand's doing what it's supposed to do, but the other hand also has to, on the inside of my wrist, cross this artery over here under her chin. Like if she drops her chin down, I'm only gonna smash her face. And then I'm going to transition to something else. And that's okay, because that's what this is all about. This is about transitioning to different things and not being married to anyone, right? We just talked about that. Don't get married to a specific position. Okay? We're gonna come here and we're gonna drop down. So without my body going down, I want to be coming across your neck like that. My body going down just adds the pressure to make it better. Okay? So taco, drop, come around. Okay.
Taco, burrito, what's on your Speedo? Well, come on, you guys don't know that SNL skit? Come on.
I don't know that one.
Okay,
I know
sorry, go
some
back.
of them. No, that's enough. That's it. Try it a couple more times. That's enough.
Taco, burrito. Got it.
Position with the cross side pull down. We worked on when his elbows are in nice and tight. We get under those arms, come around, spin around into our arm bar. We can also get those arms, come up into our kimura, our wrist lock, sit back, arm bar. We can transition to mount. We can transition to knee ride. We can work on this choke. Now, if he's trying to defend the choke, he might give me something where he's opening up his arms. And I might be able to go back to arm bars, right? So that's a whole game of stuff that you guys can work on. I hope that you enjoyed this segment of our presentation. Now, please remember that I have a merchandise video up there that you can come and check out what I've got. If you really want to help me out too, you can go to combatbase.com, check out what I got in my online store. If there's something that you see there but I don't have your size, maybe come back to combatbase.com until it magically one day appears there. And you can sign up for our newsletter at combatbase.com, where you'll find out everywhere. Mostly Chris travels around and does seminars. We have our Combat Base Club, where we have a video library with over 100 different videos. And Chris always talks shit about videos. I'm like, we got a video library, man. You don't need to watch the videos. I mean, I think it's nice to watch the videos and get ideas and remember what was that step there. Alan likes to watch the videos, right, Alan? You like the videos? Yeah. So anyways, we got video libraries. We do Q&As on Zoom, which are, I think they're really beneficial. I love it when people call in with a question and we get to kind of touch on and answer. Sometimes we have several black belts in the room and we each give a different answer. That's really fun. We try to do that in our video library as well. We have different people weighing in on different things. So check out combatbase.com. Also, I know we have some podcast listeners in the crowd, maybe. You can check it out. We have a couple. Yeah, we do. But if you haven't heard, Chris and I and Tobin and John have a podcast, Combat Base on YouTube, and also it's on Spotify and Apple. And we just set up a Patreon account, which means that like you guys could donate like $1 a month, and if each one of you donated $1 a month, we might be able to keep doing the podcast. Because if Tobin and John don't get paid, then that means that probably we're not going to be able to do the podcast anymore. So if you like the podcast, like and subscribe, maybe hit up the Patreon for like $1 a month. That $1, you're not going to miss it, but it might make a world of difference for combat-based podcasts to keep on podcasting. And we just had Jean-Jacques Machado on our show the other day. That episode was through the roof. We made like $20 off that episode. It's a hard business to crack, guys. That's why I'm pitching it. Not trying to be like super salesy. Anybody that knows Chris knows he's kind of salesperson. I'm like mediocre at best, but it's worth mentioning because maybe somebody out there could really benefit from shit that we're talking about. And I know that a ton of people have hit me up and been like, we really benefit from shit that you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, just put $1 a month on the Patreon so we can keep talking about shit that will benefit you rather than, you know, Tobin and John are like, okay, we didn't make any money, so we gotta go. So anyways, as Tobin and John have a passion project. For us, it's advertisement. It's good either way, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Chris doesn't really care. He just shows up, and he really liked having Jean-Jacques over because they got to talk about a bunch of back in the day stuff. And one thing that I was very interested in his take on like why there's more injuries now in jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of injuries, right, Gabby? Lots of injuries in jiu-jitsu. Why are there so many injuries? And his thing was like people are more strength-based now when they used to be more technique-based back in the day. That was his answer to me. I thought that was pretty interesting. And I know that I want to continue to train for more years without being messed up. So I'm going to try to be the least strength-based grappler that I can be. And maybe you might want to do that too. So anyways, that's it out of me. What's next, Brian?
Thank you guys.
So, thanks again, Chris and Melissa. That was fantastic. That wasn't enough. Thank Mark Asada. Okay, I met Mark and Katie at the recreational center when I was much younger, actually, I got on the scale the other day. I'm not very far behind what I was. Anyway, yeah, 3 class on the recreation center. When was that, 2010?
Long time ago.
Yeah. So anyway, fast
We're
forward.
all younger.
Fast forward. Oh yeah. Fast forward. Black belts. There's more black belts in this room than we had in 6 counties when I started. Anyway, speaking of black belts, these guys are so awesome. They've been very, very important to me in my life. And I'm just really glad they're here today with us to do all of this together. And my wife Joanne. Mark's wife Katie.
Thank you.
Maria Mendoza. Okay, we got on right here. Right back.
Yep.
Dave Valdez from Grind. Best Roman I know right here, Julian. Everybody hang on a second.
Always in your coach. Ooh, that's
And because this guy is probably quite possibly one of the greatest youths I've ever been able to share time with, Michael Craddock.
I guess I'm kind of like this Melissa, and I tend to talk a lot, minus the injuries, but yeah, so I'll try to keep this as much as I can. Like everybody else, started jiu-jitsu, got my blue belt, trained for a while, then disappeared. Opening this place and doing all this. Tried so hard to kind of get back into it, just was difficult. Timing, everything was really hard while you're developing a business and building and trying to get back in. And then Mr. Posada, wherever you were there, is like, would always hassle me, come go open mat, come go open mat. Finally one day I showed up, reminded why I loved it, had fun. After one roll and one conversation with Brian over there, I was like, yep, this is the place. We connected on many, many levels, especially, jiu-jitsu in life. So, I mean, I say it all the time, I'll say it forever, as this man, the hidden gem of jiu-jitsu I never wanted, yet I always wanted. So like, it's family to me. Thank you for that. Other than that, just thank you to my wife for allowing me to do this. Other than that, I mean, it's really awesome. At the end of the day, I'm not any better than I was 5 minutes ago. There's no magic here. You know, we kind of like have these goals in our mind. You're a white belt, all we can think about is this belt, this belt, this belt. And then you have this, and now it's like, all right, cool, the end of the tunnel. All that's left after this is infinity. So technically, it's the scariest, biggest belt there is. So just here's to infinity, guys. Thank you.
I also just want to say something really quick. Because Brandy, you said it before too. We have another black belt in the room. She's a new baby black belt too. Because she's probably helped you in a tournament before, am I right? She's an athletic trainer. She's been teaching a very, very long time. And she's been taking care of a lot of this as well. But I also want to point out the fact that I think we have 6 female black belts